Hello, hello, good people. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Make America Think Again with Shaunavonn. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Down below, hit that subscribe button right now. We need to build the numbers on the page. So I invite folks over and make sure that you are subscribed as well. Also, like and share any videos that just provoke any thought or you want to use in conversation with family and friends. Please like and share the videos. Down below, you see the correct spelling of my name. You have my IG information there, and you also have my Cash App information. If you'd like to bless the channel, we would greatly appreciate it. And then, my IG. Throughout the week, I'm constantly posting political information, news that you should know. So please subscribe to, well, not subscribe, follow me on IG, but also check my page throughout the week. If you don't have time to watch a full news segment, but you want to know, get updated, see what's going on in the day, pop onto my IG page. Trust me, I will have something there for you. All right, so let's talk about this America 250, the 250th celebration of this American experiment. We don't know if this is going to be the last year, but let's talk about what we saw this past week in regards to the celebration. The celebrations that this regime tried to put on and put forth in front of our faces. Let's discuss that. So the first thing that we saw in regards to the America 250 celebrations was a name change. A name change. It went from America 250 to Freedom 250. And if you were wondering why, it is because there was an established group or committee to plan about 5 years ago or so. It began under Biden, okay? This planning and preparing for America's 250. Listen up, because I don't believe a lot of people know about this. So there was a committee plan, and it was supposed to go through the Smithsonian. So all the history, artifacts, all the information can be compiled in something that was going to be nonpartisan. All the states, everybody could participate in. Okay, and then you have the felon coming back into office, and then what the felon did was said, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to get my own committee over here together, and we're going to put together our own event." And as a matter of fact, let's move that money. Let's siphon that money that is supposed to go over here to the Smithsonian to put this event on. Let's siphon that over into our Freedom 250 group. Now, of course, the people that were on his committee, on his team, handpicked his buddies, his cronies, etc. And you also know that somehow, some way, through that money being funneled, I'm quite sure he lined his pockets as well. Watch the other video that I just posted in regards to how he's come up financially over this past year. So he developed his own committee, they took over, and what we saw on display over this past week was that trash that we saw on display over this past week is because of this transfer from what the Smithsonian was supposed to do and what they have been planning to do for over a 5-year period to this haphazard committee that was thrown together so he could reward his buddies and cronies again. Just like the reflecting pool, how it has been turned into a swamp. Yet again, his fellow cronies and buddies received the money and the funds, and we saw this trash ass display of America 250 celebration. So because all that happened and people started getting wind of it, especially the states, a lot of states backed out. They didn't send people, they didn't send artifacts, they didn't send information, they didn't send anything to represent their state. So you had booth after booth that was empty, or just some shit was thrown in there to represent different states, because states said, you know what, this is no longer the bipartisan or nonpartisan thing that we were investing in and we thought was going to happen. So we don't want to have any parts of it. If this is something he's making about himself, we don't want to have any parts of it. So states dropped out, artists dropped out, many artists dropped out. Only tens of people attended throughout the week. You saw very scarce response and showing. Like you had people, I saw performances on the stage that were happening, and there was one person just out in the field twirling by himself, just twirling. So the attendance was very, very low, embarrassingly low. Some people passed out because there were no AC or none of those cooling fans that you typically have in spaces where it's going to be hot outside. We have them all over California. Restaurants everywhere you go, you have those cooling fans. None of that was happening in the booths. So people were passing out. Ambulance were called. The imitation arc that the felon plans to put up somewhere around DC, that imitation, the 3D imitation, was melting. There was yellow stuff oozing out of the crevices of the arc that was there, the fake arc. The Ferris wheel broke down. I saw the rehearsal of the dancers that were supposed to perform on Saturday. Part of the ceiling fell down and almost fell on top of them while they were rehearsing. Many folks, the heat exhaustion, and like I said, ambulances were called. And then on Friday, they even shut down the fair for hours because of the extreme heat. And then again, lack of AC, lack of cooling fans, lack of any sort of things that have been put in place that would plan for weather. So this is what happens when you take money that you have a committee that has been planning for 5 years, and you siphon off and you take the money away from them and you give it to some just group of people that are your buddies and your friends and that don't really know how to put this shit together, and or a performance or a something of this magnitude together. They don't know how to do it. So they're just skimming money off the top, and oh, we'll just throw some shit over there. We'll just throw some shit over there and put a big Ferris wheel in the middle. People will be happy. That's what happened. So it got shut down on Friday for, some hours. The felon came out and said, well, make sure that you show up for when I come on, and I come out and I talk on Saturday because, rain, heat, whatever, I'm going to be out there. Now, it was predicted to be 107 degrees on Saturday, but he said that he was still going to come out in that heat and speak. And so he's like, please, begging the folks, please, please, please make sure you show up on Saturday. So they shut it down early on Friday. People went about their business, I guess, and maybe they came back that night. And then you saw first thing on Saturday morning, Patriot Fronts marching through the streets of DC. Now, first, they had to figure out how to ride the freaking train. Okay. Apparently, none of them knew how to ride the train. So there was confusion, and they backed up the whole train system, in different places because they didn't know how to go through and pay on their own. And that just speaks volumes for the type of people that we're talking about are walking around masked and with khaki pants on, talking about, let's take America back or reclaim America or whatever bullshit that they were saying. So they're marching through the streets of DC. You saw that. Folks showed up on Saturday. Now, I will say this, it was more than the tens of tens. It was into, I'll give them thousands. People did show up on Saturday. Okay. So people showed up on Saturday for the celebration. Again, the weather took a turn. Mother Nature hates this motherfucker just as much as we do. I'm just going to put it out there. Mother Nature hates this motherfucker. So the weather took a turn again, and they had to shut the state fair down again because they were trying to protect the people. They're like, look, this thunderstorm is coming through. There's lightning, and we don't want anybody to die. And guess what the people did? The people started to pose or simulate like they were going to have another January 6th. Like they were fighting the police on trying to protect them, saying, look, you got to go home. You got to get from outside. This storm is coming through. First of all, we got the extreme heat, and this lightning is going to come down and strike you all. And they started fighting and trying to run around the police. Now, on the, on the people's behalf, I will say this. I have seen videos where they were complaining about having to stand in line for hours. So they had already stood in the heat for hours. And then they're like, now you're telling us to go home? I'd be pissed off too. So they were upset. I literally saw videos where the officers, National Guard, etc., they had to turn tables over and remove coverings that people had bought. These individual umbrellas and things like that. They had to turn the tables over because people were refusing to leave, refusing to leave when it was in their best interest to leave and be out of this storm that was going to bring potentially, hail, lightning, etc. So they got the people to leave, and guess what? Guess where they took refuge? You will never guess. MAGA took refuge and waited out the storm in the African American Museum. I kid you not. The irony in this is wild. The MAGA folks who cannot stand the people of color, their only refuge while they were in DC, if they didn't want to go back to hotel rooms, etc., was to shelter in the African American Museum. We are always providing shelter and cover for the most racist motherfuckers that walk this earth. That's my takeaway from that. So they had, the shelter, the storm calmed down and subsided, and then they were able to go back out and listen to their orange Jesus, and the orange Jesus and the fireworks went beyond midnight. So technically, I don't think the fireworks were released until July 5th. The felon speech, I'm not even going to get into that in this video. The fireworks were very aggressive, and there were a lot of them. And then today, the air quality in and over DC is shot. It's to hell. They're telling people to stay inside. But out of all that I just shared with you, this is the most important thing to me that I saw out of this whole event. Let me pull this up. Out of the entire event over the weekend, this photo, let me enlarge this photo a little bit. This photo was the most important thing that I saw. This photo right here. Because in this photo, you see the whole Patriot Front, and this is on the train. The Patriot Front is on the train headed to DC, or headed into an area in DC. And this one looks young to me, Black woman is sitting here unbossed, unbothered, and unafraid. That's the look that I see on her face. Now, I've asked other people about this photo, and the older people that I asked, they said, oh, that poor young lady, I know she was afraid, but I want you to look. Let me enlarge this just a little bit more. I want you to look at her face. Does that young lady look bothered to you? Does she look afraid to you? I don't see fear there. I see no fear. I see I shall not be moved. I see we aren't going anywhere. I don't care what kind of chaos and crazy and racism you bring and surround me with. I'm not going anywhere. That's what I see in this photo, this iconic photo. I believe it will be a Pulitzer Prize winning photo. I believe it will go down with the work of, why can't I think of his name? The famous Black photographer. Hold on. because I want to get his name right. Gordon Parks. Lord, why can't I think of that name? Gordon Parks. I think this is going to go down as one of those iconic, historic photos of exactly depicting what was happening in 2026 with all the fear and chaos and crazy of the racism that still existed in 2026. You have in the midst of that people of color that will still unbothered, refuse to be unbossed, and said, we are not going anywhere. We are unafraid and we shall not be moved. This photo is iconic. There's another photo of a young man, same situation on the train. I believe he's getting off of the train, but he's still surrounded by these Patriot Front individuals. And the same thing, it's like they don't even exist. Like I am unbothered. I'm still going to go about my business. I'm still going to live my life. And a middle finger to all the chaos and crazy and racism around him. So if you haven't seen this photo, trust me on this. It's going to be one of those iconic photos that is going to go down. Stop the share. Going to go down in history. Mark my words. This photo, Gordon Parks-esque photo, is going to go down in history as a direct depiction of America 250. Mark my words.